Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta.
Reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, Adii Lila, chapter 4, verse number 51. Sureshanam Durgam Gatir Atishayanopanishadam Muninam Sarvaswam Pranata Patalinam Madhurimam Viniryasaha Premno Nikhila Pashu Palambuja Drisham Sa Chaitanyaha Kim Me Punar Api Drisho Yasyati Padam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Chaitanya is the shelter of the demigods, the goal of the Upanishads, the be-all and end-all of the great sages, the beautiful shelter of his devotees, and the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. Will he again be the object of my vision? Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Very beautiful points here we can see in just one small translation, that he is the shelter of the demigods. Now in Bhagavad Gita also we have learned about the position of the demigods. The demigods are the administrators, and they are working under the direction of Lord Krishna. The demigods know that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and they are below him. They are not above him. Krishna is above them. And they also understand that the benedictions that the demigods give, they come from Krishna himself. So Krishna is the one who sanctions the benedictions that are being given by the demigods. Then he says that he is the goal of the Upanishads. So we have heard about the Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, everything we've heard. And in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 15, Krishna tells Arjuna, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. That Krishna is the compiler of the Vedas, and the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So here also we can see the goal of the Upanishads is to understand Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then it says, he is the be-all and end-all of the great sages. Why? Because the great sages, they have reached that level of knowledge, that realization that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. What makes the sages great? Their purification, they are purified, they have full knowledge, they understand Krishna. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the be-all and end-all of the great sages. The great sages, they are aware of Krishna's position, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's position, and they worship the Supreme Lord. This is a position of the great sages. And of course, they understand that all the knowledge that they have acquired, the purpose is to realize Krishna, because Krishna is the be-all and end-all. And they understand, these great sages understand the purport of the Vedas. Like we learned in Bhagavad Gita, that the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna, because he is the one who's the compiler. Then it says the beautiful shelter of his devotees. That is so pleasing to the heart to know that Krishna is the beautiful shelter. It doesn't say shelter of the devotees, beautiful shelter of his devotees. Why? Because the devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. We have learned this in Bhagavad Gita also, right? So many verses where Krishna says, such and such devotee is very dear to me, such and such. But then who is most dear to him? The one who spreads the glories of the Supreme Lord, the one who spreads the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the one who spreads the knowledge, spiritual science to others. That person is most dear to Krishna. So here, Krishna, he is a beautiful shelter for his devotees, because the devotees, they are surrendered to Krishna. They want to please Guru and Krishna, and that's how they get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And not only that, their surrender is complete. Now he's talking about pure devotees, where the pure devotees, their whole life and soul is Krishna, their whole life and soul is preaching. We get these daily realizations from Guru Maharaj, right? Every day we get, for each day, for each date we get it. What is the main thing that he's talking about? If anyone is asking a question, the answer is preach. All answers, ghum phir ke, round, come to preach. Why? Because that makes the devotee very dear to Krishna. And then, so Krishna is inclined towards his devotee, and he gives shelter to his devotee, because the devotee has taken shelter. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna, after some time, after all that lamentation and confusion and moroseness, and then he says, I want to be your Shishya. He accepts Krishna as the spiritual master, taking shelter of the lotus feet. So there are so many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam also about all those who took shelter. The Pandavas, they took shelter of Krishna. They accepted Krishna as their spiritual teacher. Then there is Bhishma Dev, there's Kunti, Queen Kunti. She was so Krishna conscious that all she wanted was Krishna. That's all. It doesn't matter what her situation was. Most of the time it was not good. Most of the time he was in trouble. She was in trouble. Not that she was in trouble, but there was trouble in her life. Not that she did anything wrong, but there were those situations in her life. But she always remembered Krishna. In fact, she wanted more troublesome situations so that she could continue to remember Krishna. Many times when I remember someone had asked Guru Maharaj that, oh, I'm going through so much miseries, this is happening, that is happening, and it is so painful. I cannot be Krishna conscious in such a situation. So he told her, is it bad like Prahlad Maharaj's misery? That was all. Did someone throw you in a boiling hot oil? Did someone throw you from a hill? Did someone try to drown you in the ocean? Something like that? No. Then if Prahlad Maharaj in all those situations could not forget the Supreme Lord, then what to speak? So there's Prahlad Maharaj, and then of course Queen Kunti. So we have so many examples that show us that they took shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. It didn't matter in what situation they were. So, and we've also heard Guru Maharaj say this many times, Rakhe Krishna mare Krishna rakhe ke. To whomsoever Krishna wants to protect, no one can annihilate. But to whomsoever he wants to annihilate, no one can protect. So he is the beautiful shelter of his devotees. Then it says that he is the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. Like last week, as I mentioned, this is a very high level topic, talking about the love of gopis with Krishna. This very high level. It is not to be spoken in public. As I mentioned, Srila Prabhupada did not talk about this in public. And Of course, I don't have the realization to talk about it. So we just appreciate that, yes, that he is the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. And their love is considered the highest, topmost level of love. Let's go to the next verse, 52. Aparam kashyapi pranayijana vrinadasya kutuki rasastomam ritva madhuram upabhoktum kam api yaha rucham swam avavre dvitam iha tadiyam prakatayan sadeva chaitaya kritir atitaram naha kripatyatu. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna desired to taste the limitless nectarian mellows of the love of one of his multitude of loving damsels, Sri Radha. And so he has assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya. He has tasted that love while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. May that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. Purport. Texts 51 and 52 are respectively Prathama Sri Chaitanya Staka 2 and Dvitiya Sri Chaitanya Staka 3 from the Stava Mala of Srila Rupa Goswami. So here we see a reference where one of the reasons of Krishna appearing as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this material world, one of those reasons, and that was to taste the limitless nectar that Srimati Radharani relishes in love for Krishna. So Krishna wanted to taste that nectar of how it feels to taste himself. See, very high topic. Even to understand this one sentence is really high. So he wanted to relish that same nectar that Srimati Radharani was relishing for him. He wanted to see what does it taste like. Just like when, if you remember, when Krishna was very little and he was walking and he saw his own reflection, he was mesmerized by that. He said, who is this most attractive boy? So attractive that I am getting attracted. So he was getting attracted to himself just seeing his reflection. So imagine the nectar of his love, how much more attractive that would be. So he wanted to see what it tastes like, the rasa of love of Radharani for him. And what did he do? He did not come in his dark color, the bluish dark color, but he took the color of Srimati Radharani's complexion, which is golden. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when we see, he is golden. So he not only took the mood of Srimati Radharani, but he took her complexion as well. And this verse says he hid his own dark complexion. And the reason was, of course, to taste the nectar, but also to come as a devotee to show us how one should be a devotee. How can one become a devotee? How can one develop that mood of that relationship with Krishna? So he came in the mood of Srimati Radha Rani. Next verse. Bhava grahanera hetu kaila dharma sthapana tara mukhya hetu kahi shuna sarvajana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. To accept the ecstatic love is the main reason he appeared and re-established the religious system for this age. I shall now explain that reason. Everyone, please listen. So the main reason is mentioned. To relish the ecstatic love, to relish that nectar that Srimati Radharani relishes for Krishna. But at the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us Krishna consciousness, which is the greatest gift, to show us what is the right religious system for the age of Kali? Right? We have heard Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnum. In Satyayug, the religious system was meditation for thousands of years. Treta Yuga, it was fire sacrifice. Dwapar Yuga, elaborate deity worship. But in Kali Yuga, chanting the holy names of the Lord to show us the right religious system for Kali Yuga. That's why he came to give us the Maha Mantra, the greatest chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, in this translation that we read, which is the most important word? Listen. The difference between hearing and listening. Hearing, in from here, out from there. Listening, in from here, stay here. That is listening. So here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not saying, please hear. He says, please listen, which means attentive listening and then contemplation on what we are hearing. So in hearing, one must pay full attention. Then that attentive hearing becomes listening. So here, the most important word in this verse is listen. So just as we listen to the Krishna Katha, similarly, we should also listen to the Maha Mantra when we are chanting, which is attentive chanting. So if you remember when we were doing Srimad Bhagavatam classes, in the very beginning, what was the qualification given for those who want to hear Srimad Bhagavatam? Rapt attention. What is the meaning of rapt? Attentive. Yes, undivided, attentive. So just as there is attention needed to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, similarly, we need that rapt attention for hearing Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Next verse.
In this verse, you said the listening is important than the hearing. But if you see the translation by word translation in this, it says suna, please hear. But in the translation, it says listen.
Yes, because Srila Prabhupada, he is the Acharya, he is Sanskrit scholar. That's why he's called Bhakti Vedanta, right? So he knows how to translate. He knows what exactly is the real meaning. Shuna. Shuna means please hear, but please hear attentively, which means please listen. So he has translated based on what he has heard from the previous acharyas. Next verse, number 54. Mula hetu age shlokera kaila abhas ebe kahi sei shlokera artha prakash. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Having first given hints about the verse describing the principal reason why the Lord appeared, now I shall manifest its full meaning. So what was the principal reason? To relish Radharani's love that she has for Krishna. Now he's saying we will hear the full meaning. Next verse. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladani Shakti Rasmad Ekatmanav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bhedam Gatautau Chaitanakyam Prakatam Adhuna Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhav Dyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Purport. This text is from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. It appears as the fifth of the first 14 verses of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. So there is a mention of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. But before we go there, let's see what it's talking about, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Now these pastimes of Krishna and Radharani, they are of the Hiladani Shakti, the pleasure-giving potency. And they are, you can say, one in their identity, which means Radha and Krishna are one. But to enjoy these pastimes, Krishna has separated himself as Srimati Radharani. And now he's saying they are united again as Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Now this is also very high level. We have intellectual access to this knowledge. We can hear it and try to understand it. But to realize it, it's a very high level topic. So here, Krishna, when he wanted to enjoy the pastimes, he separated Krishna and Radha. And now this same Radha and Krishna have united again to come down as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for some more pastimes. So here we see both are there. There is Krishna and there's Srimati Radharani. So Radharani's complexion as well as her mood is there in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the reference that, this is from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. So it's not mental speculation. This knowledge, even of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, is not mental speculation. It is recorded. We have the references. And this knowledge was, this whole pastime, everything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was recorded by Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. Yes. So far, we have heard the reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in Kali Yuga, which is more than 500 years ago, almost 540 years ago. Let's do the last verse for today, number 56. Radha Krishna Eka Atma Dui Dehadhari Anyonye Vilase Rasa Asvadana Kari. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus, they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. Purport. The two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to materialists. You see, they are a puzzle. That's why it's very difficult to understand, very high level, this realization of who is Krishna and who is Radharani and what is their relationship, what is their love all about. That is very high level. The above description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation, but one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. One is enjoying in two. Sri Krishna is the potent factor and Srimati Radharani is the internal potency. According to Vedanta philosophy, there is no difference between the potent and the potency. They are identical. We cannot differentiate between one and the other any more than we can separate fire from heat. Everything in the absolute is inconceivable in relative existence. Therefore, in relative cognizance, it is very difficult to assimilate this truth. of the oneness between the potent and the potency. The philosophy of inconceivable oneness and difference propounded by Lord Chaitanya is the only source of understanding for such intricacies of transcendence. In fact, Radharani is the internal potency of Sri Krishna, and she eternally intensifies the pleasure of Sri Krishna. Impersonalists cannot understand this without the help of a Mahabhagavad devotee. The very name Radha suggests that Srimati Radharani is eternally the topmost mistress of the comforts of Sri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. Devotees in Vrindavan therefore seek the mercy of Srimati Radharani in order to be recognized as loving servitors of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally approaches the fallen conditioned souls of the Iron Age to deliver the highest principle of transcendental relationships with the Lord. The activities of Lord Chaitanya are primarily in the role of the pleasure-giving portion of his internal potency. The absolute personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the omnipotent form of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss in full. His internal potency is exhibited first as Sat, or existence, or in other words, as the portion that expands the existence function of the Lord. When the same potency displays full knowledge, it is called Chit or Samvit, which expands the transcendental forms of the Lord. Finally, when the same potency plays as a pleasure-giving medium, it is known as Hiladini, or the transcendental blissful potency. Thus, the Lord manifests his internal potency in three transcendental divisions. So what the first point that we learn from this translation and purport is that the enjoyment of Radha and Krishna is not material. It is on the transcendental platform. But those who are conditioned souls cannot understand. That's what we learned in Bhagavad Gita also. That if we are conditioned, if we are on the bodily concept of life, that I am this body, I need to enjoy this body, I need to enjoy these senses, then it is very difficult to understand all this spiritual knowledge. So only those who have purified themselves in this process of Krishna consciousness, they can understand. So Srila Prabhupada, what does he say? It is a puzzle. Understanding Radha and Krishna and their love is a puzzle for materialists. So if we are unable to understand that, gives us an indication that we are still attached to materialism. We are still have some attachments. And Srila Prabhupada says, if a person has even a tinge of material desire, they are not qualified to go back to Godhead. So then we need to sit down and introspect. Where are we? Where do we stand? How many material desires do we have? So even if it is an tinge of it, then we are not qualified. So Srila Prabhupada says that I have given the process by which we can become fully Krishna conscious. That fully word is important. Half-baked cake doesn't taste good, right? It's not properly, you put the knife and then liquid comes out. That is half-baked cake. So half-baked Krishna consciousness is good, but it is not good enough. So he has given us a process that can help us to purify ourselves. Now, Prabhupada also says one needs great spiritual insight to understand. And that great spiritual insight will come with purification. That's why understanding Radha and Krishna is a mystery. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Guhyam means it's a secret. But one may say Bhagavad Gita is an open book. Anyone can read, in a book form, online, anywhere. but one will not understand the meaning, the secret of this knowledge, the spiritual science. But if Krishna is pleased with the devotion of a devotee, then he will decide and he will give the mercy, which is let the devotee understand him. But like we learned, beautiful shelter of Krishna. So we have to come to that stage where Krishna gives us shelter. He decides, it's his will. He decides, okay, this is the devotee who is sincerely trying to know me. Okay, I'll give my mercy to this devotee, and then that devotee can have that great spiritual insight. Only then one can understand Radha and Krishna. So here Srila Prabhupada is another point he says in the purport, this long purport, he says that one is now enjoying in two. So one Krishna is now enjoying in two, which is Radha and Krishna. Theoretically, sounds good. Realization, bolte na than than Gopal. Right? Difficult to understand, but here we can understand that Radharani is Krishna's Hiladani Shakti, pleasure giving potency. And there's no, just like there's no difference between Radha and Krishna, similarly, there's no difference between the potent and the potency. There is no difference at all. And then Prabhupada says Krishna is inconceivable. And we all know that. If he was conceivable, we would have known him by now. We would have understood him by now, right? But he's inconceivable. He can be only known when he wants us to know him. That is the bottom line. But by his mercy, it is possible. And then Srila Prabhupada says, with the help of a Mahabhagavat devotee. That is why we take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. He is a Mahabhagavat. With his help, with his guidance, we can understand this knowledge. So here we see towards the end that there is talk about the Sat, Chit and Anand. We have heard this in Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. That is the form of Lord Krishna. Sat, Chit and Anand. Very nicely Srila Prabhupada is described. So there's no need to elaborate on that. He's given very good description. So here we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to give us love for Krishna, to show us how to reach that highest transcendental platform, how to develop that transcendental relationship with Krishna. And then we will be able to come to that level where we will become qualified to go back to Godhead. Qualified. So we have heard the purposes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, to relish Radharani's love, to give us Krishna consciousness, to show us that in Kali Yuga, the only savior is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So if somehow or the other we take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, our Guru Maharaj, and please him by following his instructions so that he can bless us, when he will be merciful to us, automatically Krishna will be merciful to us. So I'm going to end at this verse number 56. If anyone has any questions.